gathering the what does this mean? Continue. Carolyn Forche's I hate technology, first volume, Gathering the Tribes, was the winner of the Yale Series of Younger Poets Prize and was followed by The Country Between Us, The Angel of History, and Blue Hour. Her most recent collection is In the Lateness of the World. She is the author of the memoir, What You Have Heard Is True, from Penguin Random House 2019, a devastating lyrical and visionary memoir about a young woman's brave choice to engage with horror in order to help others, which was nominated for the 2019 National Book Award. She has translated Mahmoud Darwish, Clarabelle Alegria, and Bob Desnos. Her famed international anthology, Against Forgetting, has been praised by Nelson Mandela as itself a blow against tyranny, against prejudice, against injustice, and is followed by the 2014 anthology, The Poetry of Witness. In 1998 in Stockholm, she received Edita and Ira Mars Hiroshima Foundation for Peace and Culture Award for human rights advocacy and the preservation of memory and culture. And I want to say about Carolyn, she goes in poetry where many people are afraid to go. She has always taken risks with the poems and showed us a world that maybe many of us did not travel to, but she brought us there. Let's welcome Carolyn Forche.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm very happy to be here as we emerge from what we've gone through in the last year and a half, and want to thank Maria for the 40 years that I've known her. So much she's given to poetry and to all of us in building community. So thank you for inviting me here. And I'm going to read from In the Lateness of the World, my most recent book of poems. I'm going to show it to you because I just love the cover. I like the birds. So this is it. In the Lateness of the World. It has I think it's an egret or a heron, or a crane. I'm not sure what it is, but it's rising out of the water like we're all doing now. I begin with an invocation poem, Museum of Stones. I wrote this for a friend who created a museum of common rocks and stones. They were all arranged on a wall beautifully. He had picked them up from his travels instead of souvenirs, and he had mounted them all and labeled them where he had found them. And they weren't just ordinary, but they became something special in this museum. And so I asked him if he would mind if I copied that and made my own museum of little stones. And he said, sure, everyone should do that. And but I didn't label them, and mine all wound up in big bags. Then they're all mixed up and I can't tell them apart. So this is, as with all poems, however, it's also about something else. And we were talking in the workshop just now about our own linguistic cosmologies, about the words that we love, that we come to love the sound of, or what they evoke in us, or what they detonate in our memory. And in this poem, there are a lot of names of stones and rocks. Museum of Stones. These are your stones, assembled in matchbox and tin, collected from roadside, culvert and viaduct, battlefield, threshing floor, basilica, abattoir. Stones loosened by tanks in the streets, from a city whose earliest map was drawn in ink on linen. Schoolyard stones in the hand of a corpse. Pebble from Baudelaire's We. Stone of the mind within us, carried from one silence to another. Stone of cromlech and cairn, schist and shale, hornblende, agate, marble. Millstones, ruins of choirs and shipyards, chalk, marl, mudstone from temples and tombs. Stone from the silvery grass near the scaffold. stone from the tunnel lined with bones, lava of a city's entombment, stones chipped from lighthouse, cell wall, scriptorium, paving stones from the hands of those who rose against the army, stones where the bells had fallen, where the bridges were blown, those that had flown through windows, weighted petitions, feldspar, rose quartz, blue schist, gneiss, and chert, fragments of an abbey at dusk, sandstone toe of a Buddha mortared at Bamyan, stone of the hill from the hill of 3 crosses and a crypt, from a chimney where storks cried like human children, stones newly fallen from stars, a stillness of stones, a heart, altar and boundary stone, marker and vessel, first cast, load and hail, bridge stones and others to pave and shut up with, stone apple, stone basil, beech berry, stone break, concretion of the body, as blind, as cold as death, all earth a quarry, all life a labor, stone-faced, stone drunk with hope, that this assemblage of rubble taken together would become a shrine or holy place, an ossuary, immovable and sacred, like the stone that marked the path of the sun as it entered the human dawn. This next poem is about a refugee. I consider the people who have come to our border in the South to be refugees of the wars that were fought in Central America in the 1980s, wars that devastated the countries. And they're living in the aftermath of those wars and fleeing the violence that continued in the aftermath. But this refugee is a refugee I met in Milwaukee in the winter when he was driving a taxi cab. And he had fled North Africa in a rubber boat trying to reach Europe. I had spent 7 summers on an island called Thassos in the northern Aegean, and that was right near Lesbos, where the refugees were kept in a camp. And also the refugees who were crossing would be rescued from the sea by the people from the island in their fishing boats and taken ashore and helped. And so I was very close to that situation. And this man gave me his story on the condition that I would write about him. I didn't know whether I could fulfill that or not, because we don't have much choice about what we write about. And sometimes things don't come, but his did. And it's called The Boatman, and he's from Homs in Syria. We were 31 souls, he said, in the gray sick of sea, in a cold rubber boat, rising and falling in our filth. By morning, this didn't matter. No land was in sight. All were soaked to the bone, living and dead. We could still float, we said, from war to war. What lay behind us but ruins of stone piled on ruins of stone? City called mother of the poor, surrounded by fields of cotton and millet. City of jewelers and cloak makers, with the oldest church in Christendom and the sword of Allah. If anyone remains there now, they would be utterly alone. There is a hotel named for it in Rome, 200 meters from the Piazza di Spagna, where you can have breakfast under the portraits of film stars. There, the staff cannot do enough for you. But I am talking nonsense again. as I have since that night we fetched a child, not ours, from the sea, drifting face down in a life vest, its eyes taken by fish or the birds above us. After that, Aleppo went up in smoke, and Raqqa came under a rain of leaflets warning everyone to go. Leave, yes, but go where? We lived through the Americans and Russians, through Americans again, many nights of death from the clouds, mornings surprised to be waking from the sleep of death, still unburied and alive, with no safe place. Leave, yes, we'll obey the leaflets, but go where? To the sea, to be eaten? To the shores of Europe, to be caged? To Camp Misery and Camp Remain here? I ask you then, where? You tell me you are a poet. If so, our destination is the same. I find myself now the boatman, driving a taxi at the end of the world. I will see that you arrive safely, my friend. I will get you there. The next poem is called The Lightkeeper. I like to visit lighthouses wherever they are. And I like to be alone at the lighthouse, very moody. I like it to be cloudy. But my friend taught me that you should always visit lighthouses in the pitch darkness of night, because that's when they're not any longer tall buildings, little building structures. They're alive and they're doing their work. And you can hear the light swirling around. So he brought me to this lighthouse called Hook in Ireland. And it's across the water from the Crook Lighthouse. So I think that's where By Hook or By Crook comes from. It has a history of lighthouses in it, but again, as with all poems, it's about something else too. The Lightkeeper, a night without ships, foghorns calling into walled cloud, and you still alive, drawn to the light as if it were a fire kept by monks. Darkness once crusted with stars, but now death dark as you sail inward. Through wild gorse and sea wrack, through heather and torn wool you ran, pulling me by the hand so I might see this for once in my life. The spin and spin of light, the whirring of it, light in search of the lost, there since the era of fire, era of candles and hollow wick lamps, whale oil and solid wick, colza and lard, kerosene and carbide, the signal fires lighted in this perilous coast on the Tower of Hook. You say to me, stay awake. Be like the lens maker who died with his lungs full of glass. Be the yew in blossom when bees swarm. Be their amber cathedral, and even the ghosts of Cistercians will be kind to you. In a certain light, as after rain, in pearled clouds or the water beyond, seen or sensed water, sea or lake, you would stop still and gaze out for a long time. Also when fireflies opened and closed in the pines, and a star appeared, our only heaven. You taught me to live like this, that after death it would be as it was before we were born, nothing to be afraid, nothing but happiness, as unbearable as the dread from which it comes. Go toward the light always. Be without ships. This is for Ilya Kaminsky. You probably know this poet, I hope you do, or his books, Dancing in Odessa and Deaf Republic. we went together. I took him back to Odessa in 2004, a city he had fled as a teenager. I've known him since he was in his teens, and I thought it would be a good idea for him to go back to Odessa. And it was in some ways, and in some ways not. But we also decided to go to St. Petersburg so he could visit the shrines of the silver poets of Russia, the shrines of Akhmatova, the shrines of Mandelstam. And we did that. And we went to Tsarsky Selo where Akhmatova spent her summers in childhood. And there's a school there where Pushkin went to school. And it's now called Pushkin's Lycée. So this happens in Pushkin's Lycée for Ilya at Tsarsky Selo. We stand at the casement window of Pushkin's Lycée. These are the desks where Pushkin wrote, his chalkboards, his astrolabe. Snow falls from here into the past and vanishes on golden minarets. Snow recedes from the birches. A lesson writes itself in winter chalk. On the day Michelangelo died in Rome, Galileo was born in Pisa. Isaac Newton was born the year Galileo died. When they searched for the poet Kabir, they found nothing beneath his shroud but a sprig of jasmine. Man is like the statue, whispering about the marble chiseled from his mouth. You are the guardian of this statue, standing in your silent world. The year Isaac Newton died, there was a barn fire during a puppet show. Kabir says all corpses go to the same place, and the world has fallen in love with a dream. This life is not the same as your other life. We are here now, in one of the shrines of the silver poets. You are one of the silver. The snow is a white peacock in a Russian poem. Morning on the island. The lights across the water are the waking city. The water shimmers with imaginary fish. Not far from here lie the bones of conifers, washed from the sea and piled by wind. Some mornings I walk upon them, bone to bone, as far as the lighthouse. A strange beetle has eaten most of the trees. It may have come here on the ships playing music in the harbor, or it was always here, a winged jewel, but in the past was kept still by the cold of a winter that no longer comes. There is an owl living in the firs behind us, but he is white, meant to be mistaken for snow, burdening a bough. They say he is the only owl remaining. I hear him at night, listening for the last of the mice and asking who of no other owl. Lost poem. You know, it's about that feeling you have when you're trying to remember a poem and you can't remember enough about it to find it. That's what this came from. Lost poem. I'm searching for a poem I read years ago. It was written by Cavafy, I thought, but reading through Cavafy again, I can't find this poem. I don't recall the title, but there is a road in the poem, and a bridge, and a city near the sea. There are many souls and hungers, figs, demons, imaginary silence, and hidden phrases that have to do with secret assignations. The poem is said to have been written on the uncut pages of a dream. In one version, the olive trees go up in smoke, but the bridge survives. In another, the city itself is lost, and there is no road. It is a war poem then, and that is why it is not to be found in the collected works of Cavafy. Toward the end, this is one of those poems that are rather mysterious. You don't really know where they come from or even what they're about, really. So this is one of those. I don't get them very often. I titled it Toward the End, and I don't know why either. In this archipelago of thought, a fog descends, horns of ships to unseen ships, a year passing overhead, the cry of a year, not knowing where, someone standing in the aftermath who once you knew, the one you were then, a little frisson upon recognizing that face. And then, just like that, gone, and no one for hours. A sound you thought you heard, but in the waking darkness is not heard again. 2 sharp knocks on the door. Death it was, you said, but now nothing. The islands, places you have been, the sea, the uncertain, full of ghosts calling out, lost as they are, no one you knew in your life. The moon above the whole of it, like the light at the bottom of a well, now an opening in the iced air, near the surface where you have gone under and come back, light, no longer tethered to your own past. And were it not for the weather of trance, of haze and murk, you could see everything at once, all the islands, every moment you have lived or place you have been, without confusion or bafflement. And you would be one person. You would be one person again. I'm going to add a poem because we were talking about confessions earlier. So I thought I would try a poem of mine that is called Confession. And it's about, I've started to talk to myself, you know, as a young girl. And this is what happened. It's called Early Confession. Read it from a book. I don't have this one by heart. If I had never walked the snow fields, heard the iced birch, leant against wind hard toward the distant houses, ever distant, wind in the coat, snow over the boot tops, supper fires in windows far across the stubbly farms, none of them my house until the end, the last, and late, always late, despite how early I'd set off wearing gloves of glass, a coat standing up by itself. If I had never reached the house, but instead lain down in the drifts to finish a dream, if I had finished, would I have reached the rest of my life here, now, with you, whispering, must not sleep, not rest, must not take flight, must wake. It's a little bit about, you know, I would be so cold walking home. It's about 2 miles every day. And sometimes I just wanted to go to sleep in the ditch in the snow, and that wouldn't have been a good idea. So I think that's what it's about. That last one is called What Comes, and it's dedicated to all the people who have survived chemotherapy. I wrote it when I was in chemotherapy, and I thought that I was trying to talk myself into being positive about things. What comes? I brought from despair a basket so light, my love, that it might have been woven of willows, honey shell. To speak is not yet to have spoken. The not yet of a white realm of nothing left, neither for itself nor another. A no longer already there, along with the arrival of what has been, light and the reverse of light. Terror as walking blind along the breaking sea, body in whom I lived. The not yet of death, darkening what it briefly illuminates, an unknown place, as between languages, back and forth, breath to breath, as a calm in the surround rises, fireflies in lindens and ache of pine. You have yourself within you. Yourself. You have her. And there is nothing that cannot be seen. Open then to the coming of what comes. That is my reading. I'm a minute or two early, but
Wonderful reading.
thank you,
I think
Maria.
everyone feels the same way.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Read beautifully. Your poems are beautiful and moving. And I love the way you pick up little details and they become magical. They rise up off the ground. It's really amazing.
I hope so. What I found when I was reading my book up is that there are little echoes in it, like there's two lighthouses, you know. I mean, I didn't,
Right.
I was surprised when I saw those, you know, and you don't really see them right away. But this has been a wonderful afternoon, and I'm grateful to the people who were in the generative workshop. And I hope that you come away with things that will help you to write in the coming days as we all emerge from this incredible time we've been through. And remember, you survived it. You all did. You came through. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. Very lovely, wonderful. And perhaps I could talk you into coming back to the Poetry Center sometime
Absolutely.
to read at the Hamilton Club.
I
Which
was
is much prettier than where you read the last time. For
Oh, the last time was fine. It was a lovely group, you know, people.
Oh, the people were wonderful. Yes,
They always are. Yeah.
they always are. We have the greatest audience and the greatest participants in the world. Not to be prejudiced about it or anything, or biased in any way.
It's always important for everyone to feel that way about their own communities. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh.
Thank you.